No. Oh, this is water.
We have,
Excellent.
tell Jeff to bring in the
Excellent.
coffee. Forgot to bring in the coffee.
No,
No worries.
I'm good with water.
Well, I need coffee. I'm going to keep up with you, buddy. And, of course, Tony Hinchcliffe is here, who's a gigantic chess fan and just creamed his pants yesterday when I told him you were coming in. And then immediately I said, you got to come with me. And so Tony's here as well. It's an honor to meet you, man. I'm always fascinated by people that are at the top of something that's insanely difficult, like chess. And I'm always wondering, like, how much time is involved? How often do you play? And when did you start? How old were you when you first started playing?
I think my dad is an avid chess player, so I think he thought that I might have some talent. So he taught me pretty early at around 5 years old. But at that time, I wasn't that interested. I was mostly into Legos, and I was into maths and like sports stats. And I had my little flag book with all the countries in the world, their flags and their inhabitants and area and everything. And I sort of that's what I did. Generally, just taking in all the stats that I could, also with sports, reading the sports section every day. And I didn't find chess that fun. A couple of years later, my older sister, who's a year and a half older than me, she did a lot of chess with my dad. I started sitting in on them a bit, and I started liking it. I really, really wanted to beat my sister as well at generally everything. And from there on, it really just became my thing, and it's been my main hobby and eventually work as well since.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's so funny though. A competitive spark with your sister is really what ignited you to get going with it.
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, she's not competitive at all. So she hated the fact that I wanted to play, especially when I realized that I could beat her. And she liked chess, but she stopped for a while and only started when I had become like good enough that there wasn't a competition. So it turned like my dad was right after all. I just needed that extra push.
Yeah, what a call. I think you've got some talent. What a call.
Grandmaster at 12, was it?
13. So actually the record is 12, but most kids these days, honestly, they start so early. I was at a tournament in India a few months ago, and there's this guy who's like a 1600 rated player, and he's 3 years old. And like I'm seeing the games, like they're actually decent. And yeah, now there's this one kid from Argentina, like they call him the Messi of chess, who's going to become a grandmaster soon. I think he's only 10, so they're really, really playing early these days. But it's good to see though, because like information is so easily accessible these days. Like it takes a lot shorter time to get good at something.
Well, it seems like now chess, because of social media, and it's like everything else, it's kind of exploding because there's so many fascinating videos out. And then, of course, there was like the big controversy with that young man who you believe is a big old cheater. That guy. I need to know, the anal beads thing, is that a legitimate theory?
So it actually started in one of my friend's streamer channel that like one random guy made a comment about anal beads, and he was like, yeah, maybe. And then I think it started taking the rounds in Reddit, and then Elon saw it, tweeted about it, and then obviously it blew up. I actually spoke to I think it was Mark Andreessen who said like that would be one way to do it.
Yes.
But I really, really, really don't believe that has happened. Like I think it has no connection to reality, but it just became a thing of its own.
So unfortunately, this young man, we'll explain the anal beads thing, but this young man is a very talented player, but does have a history of some shenanigans, correct? And even admitted that he did a little bit of cheating in order to move his rating higher so he could play better players.
Yeah, I mean he's not admitted to nearly the extent of his cheating, but if you sort of take what chess.com say, then yeah, he cheated a bunch online in a certain period of time, partly in tournaments, but mostly in casual games, as he said himself to sort of get himself up the standings and play the best players in the world.
But he is a very good player.
I think he has become a very good player, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So what made you convinced that he was cheating in that particular game? And by what method do you think he could possibly have been doing this?
Could you hear something? Was it like burnt? You're hearing vibrations?
You see his seat shift.
Yeah. You're smelling something? There's a whiff of something in the air?
Yeah, I mean that would have been the smoking gun, I suppose. But I think there was a combination of things, though, based on the chess level that I thought that he had and that I'd seen from his game, both playing against him, analyzing a little with him, and looking at his other games. There were a lot of stories back then. The thing is also there's a Netflix documentary coming in a few months that sort of where I'm telling my side of the story. So I cannot go too deep into everything, but what I can say was that there were a lot of factors that made me very, very suspicious. I think ever since then he has become better, but there's still something off, both then and now. But yeah.
That's so fascinating that as an elite chess player, you'd be able to recognize that something is happening that's outside of his capabilities.
Again, I'm not ruling out the factor that chess players are becoming more and more paranoid, because we do have chess engines that basically have perfect chess, right? That anybody with their phone can, as I think Elon tweeted to Gary once, like, my iPhone can beat you at chess, which is the truth. And this means that anybody having access to information, it's incredibly dangerous. And I think top level chess has been a lot based on trust. And whenever you have outsiders whom there are these stories about, everybody gets a bit jittery. There's like people who either like they burst onto the scene, then they establish themselves, and people know that they're legit and so on. It's not a problem with him specifically. I don't know. It was. It's just he doesn't seem to be playing, or it didn't at that point seem to be playing with a particular style. It seemed that he either played kind of or he just more or less played any position very well in certain games. Like, he could just switch from tactical to positional play very easily, and it was it didn't smell good to me. It still doesn't, but to some extent, like, he had his lawsuit. We've all kind of moved a little bit on. I think I don't trust him. A lot of other top players still don't trust him. He certainly doesn't trust me or chess.com or Hikaru or whomever he felt wronged by. But it's
the problem is, like, once someone admits that they cheated a game, especially a game that has a lot of trust in it like chess, you're always going to think, like, is he cheating now? Always. But the question is, like, what method? Like, what do people do? So if you're sitting there, you have no phone, your pockets are empty. Like, what could you be doing that could possibly be aiding you?
Well, first of all, like an invisible earpiece that people use for exams and so on. Like,
So, but he would have to have a partner. With that,
yeah,
right?
he would, yeah.
Yeah.
That would not have been detected by the security system that they used at that tournament. They amped up the security after the whole thing
Do they,
happened.
check your ears? One of
Yeah,
those,
yeah. They
devices?
start checking our ears, and then we had a live tournament in Paris last year where I played him, where there was proper security, where all of these things would be picked up, and he didn't play to nearly the same level there. So I think I'm not an expert in all of that, but that's what I've heard from people, that's like the most obvious thing that it could have that someone could have done, and it wouldn't be really that hard to pull off considering the kind of security we have at chess tournaments. And this tournament had like a little bit of security. A lot of them, like open tournaments, people are like wandering in and out of the playing hall. There are people in the playing hall, like spectators with their smartphones on and taking pictures or whatever, like going in and out, like they could make signals. It's hard. It's a big problem in chess for sure.
Yeah. So the anal beads thing, for people who don't know what we're talking about, the theory was that he had vibrating anal beads that would somehow or another, through some sort of code, explain to him the moves. And I've thought about this for a lot longer than I care to admit. Like, what kind of code are you getting from inside your butt that you're like, okay, I got it?
Well, it would be like, C4 or whatever. Like it could tell you by...
How would it say it in your butt, though?
Well, I mean...
It's Morse code?
I'd have to show you.
Luckily, I brought one.
Yeah, I have some in right now. No, it would be like it would buzz, right? It would buzz the letters and then the numbers that would indicate where you would move, and there would only be a piece or two.
So like the first three vibrations would be letter C, and then okay.
It's just a sort of technological version of ways people have cheated before. There was a scandal back in 2010 where the captain of the French team was helping one of the French players by cheating. He was basically just standing in certain spots around the table to tell him where to move.
Oh wow,
that's crazy.
Oh wow. Dirty people out there.
It's wild.
Well, it's such a competitive thing. Whenever you have competitive things, you always have people that just want to win at any cost, right?
Yeah, it's also funny that one of his teammates from that tournament worked with me for a long time, and he told me like this guy was like going out every night, not taking the tournament seriously at all. But he had a good reason. Like he knew he was gonna.
He's partying.
He knew he was gonna win.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So is that the most egregious form of cheating that you've ever seen or heard of?
No, I actually played an open tournament in Denmark about 20 years ago, where there was a guy who was playing Grandmaster in the first round. Like, this was not a very good player, and he came drunk to the table and just literally pulled out his phone and opened a chess program. But of course, like he was immediately so that wasn't, of course, nearly as nefarious. But yeah,
that's just a moron.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he was just. Yeah, probably some other issues there.
There's just it is such a fascinating game because it's impossible to play if you're dumb. Like there's games that you could just be a savant, like an idiot savant, but chess is like it's the most impressive thing for people to be unbelievably good at.
I don't know. I think you can be dumb and be like fairly good at chess. I think it like some intelligence certainly helps, but after all, a lot of chess is about learning patterns, right? And basically anybody can do that. So like applying them at a higher level, learning how to evaluate and so on, that sort of is what sets the really the best players apart from merely good players. But I feel like anybody could become quite decent at at the game. But I do love the fact that there are no coincidences, like there are no outside factors. Well, if you don't talk other than cheating, of course. But it's just you're either outsmarting your opponent or you're getting outsmarted.
So for a guy like you that excels above all, what is the difference in your preparation? Is it just simply who you are as a person, you think? Or is it something about the difference in your preparation without giving away any secrets, obviously?
I'm like known in the chess world for being like a little bit lazy, I think. The thing is that can I pause you there?
Yeah. What do you mean lazy? Like, how is that possible?
No, the thing is, like, I've never been the kind of person who wakes up in the morning, works 6-7 hours and chess like a normal job, and then
because a lot of them study computers.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think about the game all the time. Like I play online. I look at games. I may read some.
Do you ever play anonymously?
I used to do that all the time.
What a bloodbath that must be.
But I think I got humbled one time by this Russian Grandmaster who somebody else asked me like if a certain account on a certain website was me, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know who that is. And this guy went like, yes, that is you. And he listed up like 5 other accounts that I thought nobody knew about.
Wow.
How did he know? Me.
By the way you play?
Yeah, I think it's playing strength, playing style, because I tried to switch up my openings on different accounts to not make it obvious that it's me, and I have like a style where I switch that up a lot, so it makes it a bit easier. But I think you could just tell by the playing style. So
that is crazy.
These days I play with my my own name. I don't really care about that anymore.
Yeah. So do most professional players study chess all day long at the highest level?
I think quite a few do. I mean, I don't know like people's day-to-day activities. So
you guys don't talk about it?
Not that much. The people that I've worked with, they certainly study chess a lot. But others, I'm not quite sure. The thing is that chess has always like still been a bit of a hobby for me, that once it starts to feel like work, then it's harder for me. I had a chess coach when I was little. I went to have sessions once a week, which I loved, and then he started giving me homework, and I told him like quickly like I don't like homework, but I would but I would still spend a lot of time like reading books, playing online, the things that I still do, but I would do them for fun. And that was the difference between me and the other kids, is that they would go to chess practice, they would maybe even do their homework, but they weren't living and breathing sort of the game that in the way that I was. Like, I think about it all the time. Like, I'm thinking about the game while I'm sitting on this chair. Like, I'm still analyzing a game that I played today. Like, it never goes completely out of my mind. And I think a lot of very good chess players do that, but like casual chess players, no, of course.
So maybe the thing is discipline versus enthusiasm. Enthusiasm causes obsession and enjoyment, which probably leads to better retention of information. Whereas just pure discipline for the sake of like, I have to do the work in order to get better, you're missing this enjoyment. You're missing this enthusiasm for it that you have managed to, although absorbing so much information and playing all the time, you've managed to keep it playful and fun.
I think so. I think this is definitely the way that works for me. Maybe for others, I think for anybody, like if you want to be great at something, you have to be obsessed with it.
Yes.
And it has to come from within. Like nobody can. Maybe in certain sports you can get that good purely by very, very targeted practice and a lot of hours. But I think for me it's just the way that it works, and I do like process even though like I don't necessarily study, like I don't deliberately practice all the time, I still process the information. So it's still whatever the method is, it certainly works.
But it's interesting because you've been able to excel above so many, and it makes me wonder, like, what I always am fascinated by whether it's a Tiger Woods or whatever the athlete is or whatever the game they play, what separates the very best from everyone else. Like, I know in martial arts, there's a series of factors that have to do with genetics, training, coaches, sparring partners, and then ultimately discipline and drive. But with chess, it's all mental. Physical has nothing to do with it. So do you think it's a genetic thing? Do you think you have a unique mind for chess? Do you think it's this balance that you keep with enthusiasm and obsession? Like, what do you think separates you from everyone else?
I think it has to be a variety of factors. I think there's no doubt that I'm incredibly naturally gifted at the game. Like, otherwise I wouldn't have come this far. And my dad is incredibly good with numbers. He started playing chess quite late, but became became decent. Like, my mother was quite smart, and my sisters are very intelligent too. So like, it's clear that there are some good genes, and I just I happened to find also an environment early on where I lived near Oslo, which had probably the best chess environment there was in Norway, at the very least, where there were I had access to coaches, and I had access to like a little training group of other ambitious kids. After that, I think the most important thing that I've done is that I haven't really listened to people who want me to do things like a certain way, because that's the way things have always been done, especially with the Soviet chess school. That was the dominant one for so many years. So I've always sort of gone my own way, tried to have as much fun. Everything has to be about enjoyment. And yeah, I cannot tell you why, but I just like understand the game better than the others. Like, I don't calculate necessarily as far as the other, but my intuition, like for short lines, constantly evaluating is just better. It's
always just such an interesting thing to analyze, like high performers, and just to wonder like what it is that separates high performers. When you say your father started playing late, how old was he?
Oh, I think he started playing about 14, 15, something like that. In chess, that's very. But he never like took it seriously enough that he wanted to, like, he pursued it, but
as a hobby.
As a hobby, yeah.
Well, when you say take it seriously, you mean like you do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what makes me think about epigenetics. Like, we still don't exactly know how much information is transferred between parents to children, and it seems like there's a lot of talents, whether it's like singing talent or sports talent, that you have to wonder, like, is that coming from genes, or is that coming from the environment which this child grows up, which this person, or is it a combination of all those factors? Like, I wonder if someone gets a very intelligent person gets very good at chess early on, I wonder if some information or some proclivity for the game gets transferred.
I think the reaction in the chess community, at least with certain people, was more along the lines of, how could such a lousy player have such a good son at chess with my dad. And the fact is as well that there are practically no. There are many couples of, like both mother and father are grandmasters in chess, but I don't think any of them have had sons or daughters that are grandmasters. So
interesting.
whereas you see anywhere like in the NBA or the NHL or in football or wherever, like it happens all the time. So I cannot say exactly why that is, but it does suggest that, you know, it's not a given, at least with genetics, that your children are gonna.
I have an alternate theory for that. I wonder if you're a child and your parents are absolutely obsessed with a game, if it's annoying. And you're like, fuck this game. Like, I want to go play in the park, and my parents don't even pay attention to me. This is bullshit.
Right.
And, you know, like there's a lot of children of alcoholics that will not drink. Yeah. They won't even try it because they've seen the effects of it. I wonder that. If it's like you see, because chess is an obsessive game. Like, I remember when Howard Stern was playing it, and I would listen to him talk about it on the radio and about how he started hiring a coach and he was playing all the time and he's improving his rating and this. And I was like, oh, this is eating up your mind. Like, it's a game that gets in your bones.
Mm-hmm. It really does, because, like, the entry is not so easy, right? Like, you don't like just get it immediately, and you don't necessarily get enjoyment out of it immediately as you start to play. So you have to spend time on it, and then I think when you're trying to do something hard, then it becomes much more rewarding, and it's easier for that to become an obsession when you start to get that reward.
So the good thing about that controversy with cheating was that I think it elevated the profile of chess because it became mainstream news. It was like a big issue. I think there was a positive aspect of it in terms of the publicity of the game. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think for any field of that's trying to achieve something, you know, with publicity, there's always going to be a little bit of a negative with what exactly we're connected with, right? Because this is everybody knows chess and cheating, but overall, I think it's been massively positive. You know, hopefully the Netflix thing coming up in a year, even though like
can you explain it to people? What
it's a Netflix Untold documentary. So basically, it's a series of sports documentaries, and they're doing that. It's not something that I like wanted to necessarily be part of, but I do recognize the fact that these things raise the profile of the game, and you see now like everywhere people like it. Chess is showing up in people's algorithms on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, everywhere. So it's just like much more in the zeitgeist than it used to be.
Yeah, it's certainly showing up on mine. It shows up on mine, all of them. Yours, right?
Oh yeah.
But you've always been a giant chess fan.
Well, it's actually a newer thing, but when I got into it, it was just everything. Now it's what I do right before bed. I fall asleep. Usually I fall asleep during actual games online on my phone.
You're driving them crazy.
Yeah.
How could that happen?
I'm exhausted.
What do you do when you wake up?
Oh, it's total opposite.
You wake up and you
coffee.
lost.
Yeah. I wake up and I look at the board and it said you resigned because I went over my time or whatever.
Yeah.
I just ran out of time.
How many times have you resigned?
It happens an embarrassing a lot amount. It's how I fall asleep now is playing chess. But what you will appreciate is that when I fall asleep playing chess, like when I fall asleep, I'm still playing the game in my dreams sometimes. And sometimes the game will go all night and it'll be like this never-ending game and pieces will pop back up that have already gone.
That sounds amazing. Like I would obviously that would never happen to me. And like I like to play a game of chess on my phone or my iPad whenever I have some time, especially like if I know that I have 15 minutes or whatever. And then if something comes up, like my wife tells me like I have to be somewhere, I have to do something, it's like, can you just finish the game? I'm like, no, I cannot resign the game.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously that's different though.
Yeah.
You can't just resign. You gotta ride that bitch out.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by 0 Day, a new Netflix limited series. This conspiracy thriller is about a devastating cyber attack that downs America's infrastructure. Take a listen.
Thousands died on 0 Day. Congress is authorizing a special zero-day commission.
You're just gonna grab people off the streets without warrants.
Actually, you are.
I run this investigation, not the White House, not the CIA.
If the public finds out how deep this really is, I don't think we survive.
Robert De Niro is absolutely legendary in his first TV series, and you don't really know if he's the good guy or the bad guy till the end. Zero Day has an incredible supporting cast, including Angela Bassett, Jesse Plemons, Lizzie Kaplan, and Connie Britton. Zero Day is now playing only on Netflix. Yeah, that would be like psychologically torturous, right?
Yeah, especially if I'm playing somebody who is a little bit of a rival. It's like, yeah, no, that's not gonna happen.
No chance.
I mean, because like every time like I lose games, it's a little bit of a story, right? In the chess world, so I prefer it to happen as seldom as possible.
I played a little bit of chess when I was young, but I never really got into it. But my real introduction where I got fascinated with chess was actually at a pool hall. Because people in the pool hall would play chess sometimes, but there was this one guy who went to jail, and in jail he learned how to play chess with his head, in his mind. And then there was a young kid who was a grandmaster, who was like 16, 17 years old, somewhere around then. Really, really good chess player, who kind of like lost his way and started hanging around in pool halls and gambling and being a weirdo. And I watched these two guys play chess with just words. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, what? I was like, I think I was 22 or 23 at the time. And I was like, what are you doing? And they were explaining to me that they're playing chess, memorizing the board in their head. And I'm like, that's fucking crazy. And then I saw a video of you blindfolded playing how many people? How many people did you play? What was the most people you've ever played blindfolded?
I think I've played 12, but the world record is something like 50. It's that's crazy.
Like, 12. You've played 12 people blindfolded.
Yeah. For me, that's as long as people are the people I'm playing are kind of decent at chess. That actually kind of makes it easier, because it's easier to store the games when I recognize the patterns and so on. When people start making weird moves that I cannot really recognize.
Here you are.
Oh, so this is another one actually. This is a blindfold timed simul. Like, there are fewer games, but what's difficult about these is that the moves do not come to me in a sequence. So like the presenter will tell me on board 2, e takes d5, and then all of a sudden on board 1, e6, and then on board 2 again, and so on. So that makes it a bit.
So you have to jump back and forth. So in the other games, there's a sequence where the player, even though if they know what move they're going to take, they must wait until their turn.
Exactly. That's kind of the normal way of playing a simul. I think the last time that I played a proper blindfold simul was at an event in Vienna back in I think 2015, and then I had some very nice but spicy Chinese food before the game. I sat down and like my stomach was acting up. I couldn't think, so I played for 10 minutes. I realized that I cannot do this. I ran away for 15 minutes, and then I came back and I finished the game. But ever since that, it feels like I've done it, and now it just seems incredibly hard to do again. But
do you prepare when you're doing something like this? When you're getting ready to do a blindfolded multi-game thing?
Not really, because it's like if my mind is on, then it's really not that hard, I feel. So no, the preparation that I do is right there. I see my opponents, so like I assign a certain face to a certain seat, like a certain number, and so on. So that's just about what I do.
So you assign their face, and you think of their face as they're playing.
Yeah. Face, like number 1, it's that position.
Right.
And so on.
And what are you seeing in your mind when you're envisioning the table? when you're looking at the board, are you merely thinking of positions? Or are you actually thinking of the pieces? Like, how are you breaking it down?
No, I just see the chessboard in my head.
Just see it completely 3D chessboard in your head.
Yeah, so it's and then when I'm playing a simul, I just really think about one at a time, and I kind of store the others away. And
but that's so crazy. Like when you're 5-6 moves in, and you're thinking of all these pieces moving around, and you've got it remembered. You've completely memorized each position of 12 different boards.
Yeah, so like the difficult part of it, that where things sometimes go wrong, is that, so generally I remember all the games that I've played, but I don't remember every move. I remember like in broad strokes what happened. And this is what can happen in these blindfold games as well sometimes. Like I can remember everything that's going on, but maybe there's a pawn on the side that I cannot remember if it moved one square or not. That's the thing that can be difficult. And I do. We used to have these blindfold like professional tournaments actually. That used to be like both fun but also totally exhausting. And then we would play on a computer, so we'd have like a blank chessboard where we would just click from one square to another, and then whenever your opponent moved, their move would pop up on the screen. And I've had and also the software will tell you if you're making an illegal move. So I've had people like lose track and then you see them just clicking frenetically trying to figure out what the position was. Like there was one guy whom I played, like he thought his rook was on a certain file, and if it was on that file he would be able to save a draw. So I think he tried every single rook move on that file hoping that the rook was there, but like obviously I knew that it wasn't, but yeah, overall, I feel like, honestly, like blindfold chess is a bit of a party trick in the sense that for the very top players, it's not that hard. But obviously, for serious chess players, it seems incredibly hard. But I'm sure that, for instance, like solving Rubik's Cube is really, really easy for those who know how to do it quickly, right?
Yeah.
But it still looks incredibly impressive for outsiders.
Have you seen they used a computer with AI to do a Rubik's Cube in less than a second?
No, I didn't see that.
Wow.
Yeah. See if you can find it, Jamie. It's crazy. It just goes, it just spins it.
I've never figured that shit out. That's crazy.
There's a sequence of moves. If you follow a sequence of moves, you can actually get it to do it automatically.
Huh.
Yeah. Someone explained it to me once, and they did it, and I was like, "What?" I don't remember what it was because I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
It was just like eight times this way, 8 times that way, 8 times this side, and you just keep doing it, and then eventually it'll be all flattened out at a certain point in time.
Wow.
Yeah,
You
but this computer does it like.
You do Rubik's Cube too?
No. I'm talking out of my ass. Like I know. I think the world record is only like 3 seconds or something. Like it's something absolutely insane.
Imagine the time you could have spent building a business, raising a family. I mean, like you're the fucking world record
All the
Rubik's
same
Cube
color.
guy.
Yeah.
It's so
Green,
dumb.
red.
It's so dumb.
Yeah. Well, we all have to
Here
spend
it
our
is.
time.
Watch this. Watch this
right?
computer do it.
Wow.
How crazy is that? Ready? Ready? Go. Yeah, less than a second.
Wow.
That's crazy. Show it again in real time. So give up, kids. Give up. Give up. The computer figured it out. That's a dumb game. But do you play other games as well?
No, not that much. My parents sort of brainwashed me when I was young into thinking that computer games are no fun. And
Really?
yeah.
But you're a grown man now. You've realized that's a lie.
Yeah, I have, but it's
I can
still,
see you Call of Duty fucking people up
No,
with headphones on.
The thing is, like, I actually got I got a PlayStation recently, but like my wife is playing GTA and all of these FPS games, and I'm like playing some chill FIFA or something. So, but the thing about that is that I didn't really spend that much time on those things when I was little, which I think was a good thing. Like I was doing some sports, and I was doing a lot of chess. Not so much school, but I kind of found time for everything else. And I think it was an important part of my chess education as well, that I think some of the kids today are missing. That I actually learned chess on a physical board. I was able to practice from a fairly young age playing online, but I wasn't allowed to use the computer for more than a couple of hours a week, right? So I had to spend them really well playing chess. Otherwise, I would just sit there with my board, with my books, and try and figure things out.
Yeah, the thing about video games is the narrative was always video games are a huge waste of time, and if you do it, you're not going to get anywhere in life. The problem with that is now people make a lot of money playing video games, and they've also shown that there's some benefits from video games that leak over into other things. Like, for instance, they found out that surgeons who play video games regularly make, 25% less errors?
It's 37%.
37% less errors. Wow. That's I would feel like if there was a factor in medical school and they said, well, if you do not do this, you will make 37% more mistakes. They would force you to engage in that, whatever it is. It's like whatever particular discipline that was. Like, if you want to be a surgeon, you must do this. I would say, if you want to be a surgeon, you should fucking play video games, because these people are 37% less likely to screw up an operation.
That's why I'm not a surgeon.
But I'm saying it's like video games are not necessarily a waste of time. And they've also shown there's cognitive benefits that can be gotten from playing video games on a regular basis. Things that which does make sense, but it seems like a frivolous pursuit, whereas chess is like a noble and very respected pursuit.
I'm glad you say that. Like we've official. That is what chess has, though. That it is very respected among the general population, and it does have that different standings from another a lot of other games. It's like, I'm not here to shit on video games for sure. Like I know like you do that. There are studies that show that it can be helpful. I think with anything. If you obsess over something, the only thing you will become good at is that particular thing. Like I have with chess. I just think for me specifically, it was probably a good thing that made me just sit and focus on chess rather than do all sorts of other things.
Oh, most certainly. Because video games are very, very addictive. Yeah. I had to stop playing video games. We used to have a whole local area network at our old studio where we'd all play Quake. And it was a real problem. Like, I just wanted to end the podcast so I could go play Quake. And then we'd play for hours. And eventually got to a point where I was like, okay, I got to quit again. Just cold turkey, never again, leave it alone. Because they're just too fun, and if you have other things, you have obligations, like chess, like you're an actual professional chess player, Call of Duty or whatever you're playing, Quake, it's going to eat your time.
I remember like when I first moved out, I was technically a chess professional, but I didn't have a lot of time to I had a lot of time to kill when I was home. So, and I got myself a PlayStation, played a ton of FIFA back then, and there was a GameStop near me that like they made a lot of money on me just buying new controllers all the time, because I would throw them to the wall. But I have that same personality that I become obsessed with things, and then I just have to quit cold turkey. That's the only way that works.
Yeah, I think, this is why I've avoided golf, and like Tony's big on golf, and so is Jamie. It's like, I see what it is. I'm sure I would love it, but I don't have the time during the day.
Well, I can tell you that I always thought, well, I wouldn't say that, but I always thought that I would get into golf later in life. And then I decided more or less a year ago that I was going to start, and now I am obsessed, and it's all I want to do. So
Yeah,
I can
see, that's the
100% relate. But my wife knows that I'm so happy when I come back from golf that it's like better if I get to do it quite often.
Yeah. Even you should fake being happy so you can keep doing it.
No. Like, yeah.
They say that's ruining Canelo Alvarez. You know, there's been a lot of criticism in the boxing world, and particularly in like, you know, some of his promoters and things along those lines, where they've criticized his. He's obsessive. He plays every day, even when he's in camp.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. If they do that with him, and I obviously see them do it with Trump, but you have to golf to understand what golfing does to you. It appears from the outside that people are drinking and smoking pot and having a good old time out there and giggling around, farting around with their friends. But the touch grass, meditative element, it truly is, like he was saying, like, I'm in such a crazy good mood after golf. Everybody at the comedy club can notice it. Like, it's like it gives you a massive burst of energy. So like the what am I thinking of? The just the bad reputation that golf has. Like, I would want my president golfing a couple times a week, knowing the effects that it gives you. A much clearer mind, a big burst of energy. You would think it would be exhausting walking around the woods or grass for 4 hours, but for some reason it's totally the opposite. It's whether it's the sun, the grass, the this, the that, the differential, going from a powerful thing to a mid-range thing to the delicate touch and accuracy of putting, these repetitive things. For some reason, it's a mind clearer and kind of an energy giver. Whereas video games and other things make you depressed. It's almost impossible to be down or depressed after golfing.
Well, it's certainly a stimulating game, right? Because it's hand-eye coordination, calculation, managing the lay of the land, the way the rolls of the hills are, and all those factors. I think like this is something that I think people genuinely need in life.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the reasons why people respect chess so much is because they know how difficult it is, and they know that all this is going on, and they see you two just staring at the board, looking at these pieces and calculating this insane number of possibilities that could emit from each individual move. It's like that stimulation. When someone gets good at a game, I think it's very valuable for you. And I think that can apply to all sorts of things in life. So I agree with you. I would want the president to play golf too.
Yeah.
I'd want him to find something, whatever it is. Find a thing that you can excel at other than just being the president.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if it was Call of Duty.
Yeah,
like, if
that would be wild. I wouldn't want that. The president going, fuck yeah! Da, 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 da.
We had that. It was George W. Bush, and there was no video game system.
That's dark.
Yeah, it is dark. Well, I mean, they literally use PlayStation fucking controllers when they were using drones. I don't know if they still do it now. I think now they have more sophisticated setups, but one of the reasons why they were using them was because so many people were accustomed to those. You get kids that have been playing, Madden 10 hours a day for 15 fucking years, and then you give them the same controller, and they're like, oh yeah, I can fucking drop some bombs on people. Like, not a problem at all.
That's horrible.
It's dark.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, like, these skills that you have in a video game, like, you think of it in the same way. Like,
well, it really haunts those people, apparently. There's a very specific type of PTSD that drone operators get. It's because they see the people sometimes for days in advance. So they're doing surveillance. They're waiting for the moment when they get the green light. They see these people. They see them with their families. They're watching them from above, and then they drop the bombs on them, and then they cease to exist. And this is happening on completely the other side of the world. Yeah,
they just press X on the controller.
Yeah. But if you want to get good at that, you should probably play video games. It's a job for everybody out there, Magnus.
I'm also trying to think, like, could you get surgeons to be drone operators? Probably doesn't work that way.
No, probably doesn't work that well. At best, surgeons just whatever hand-eye coordination that they have is probably so intricate that they could probably excel at anything. They'd probably get good at video games. Like a very good surgeon who's never played video games would probably get really good at video games really quickly because the communication between your hands.
There's
and your
also
mind.
probably a tricky part of that stat where the younger people are the ones playing the video games that probably wouldn't slip up with their hands as easily as an older surgeon that has never played video games, right?
Yes. Right. Yeah, that's a good point. It's it's interesting that chess is uniquely the game that's respected. Like probably out of all, even if you played golf, people could think, "Oh, you're a fuck up." You say you played chess, like, "Oh, that must be an intelligent man." It's probably the most uniquely rewarded game in terms of the way people respect it in society.
Yeah, we're very lucky that it has this unique position. Whether that's deserved, I don't know. But there's just something about the fact that it's a very, very simple game, but it's still so infinitely difficult. The thing now though is that we're trying to actually make it a bit more difficult for a classical form of chess, because now computers are so strong, preparation has gone so far that the thought of like sitting down at the board and just thinking on your own from the very get-go, it's not there anymore. Anybody who's really good at chess, like anybody can learn the best openings like very quickly. Even if you go like 10, 20 years ago, you could play you could play, for instance, in the Chess Olympiad, which is the biggest team like nation tournament in the world, and you could play against the best player from let's say Colombia, and you would know that they have a certain skills, but they might not have the same set of openings, right? Now, all of these, like, there are kids everywhere, and they just, like, they know their stuff so well. So now we're, like, testing out new formats. One that we call freestyle, which is basically there are 960 possible starting positions if you shuffle the pieces on the first rank. And basically, like, you start out... You just draw the position 10 minutes before the game, no preparation whatsoever. And you basically start with, like in gaming, a new map every single game. So that's sort of for the traditionalists. That's not like the same game. So like there are some people who don't like it. But for the professionals, it's a chance like to use their skills, because otherwise, chess is moving, like it's becoming faster. Like chess used to be an art, science, everything. With the way things are now, it's just very fast, and it's all games, sports, and so on. Like I feel like with thinking from the very first move, you're bringing some of the other factors back as well.
What I think it's really unique about today is that kids today who are coming up are not just studying from books and from coaching, but you can watch so many great games instantaneously anytime you want. This is what's so unique about today. And I think it applies to all sports. I think it applies to all games. I think it applies to stand-up comedy as well. Yeah. So I think it's one of the reasons why the younger guys are so good. It's like you get to see very high-level stuff which gets into your mind that this is how to play at a very early age, and you can be obsessed and just absorb so much more.
Yeah, and you see there are such different approaches as well, even with the kids. Like I had a training camp a few years ago with a kid called Alireza Firouzja from. He plays for France now, but he's from Iran originally. I think he was about 14 then, and my chess coach had like recommended that we bring him in because he said that this is the most talented kid out there. So we have this camp where typically everybody has their laptop, and there's a chessboard in the middle where you sort of and you sort of look at your own thing and then some things together on the board, and you throw out ideas, mostly for openings, but also sometimes other little exercises and so on. And this kid, he would have his laptop where he would analyze a certain position, and then he would play games like for money on that same site at the same time, so that he could buy cloud engine times, because like the very best engines, they're stronger like if they're in the cloud than from your own laptop generally. So he would buy time for that by playing games like 1 minute games on that server. He would play 5-minute games on another server, and he would analyze with us on the board, and he was still like following everything. Like he had no problems whatsoever just being there. So like it's just that's one way of doing it. Like he basically became one of the best players in the world by just constantly playing chess all the time, and mostly like really quick games. And then you have the current classical world champion from India, Gukesh. Like he doesn't play casual games at all. He just studies his ass off all the time. And he's also like, he's not good at rapid chess. He's not good at blitz. He's not good at other forms. But he has made all his studies about classical chess. He didn't even own like chess software on his computer before he was like 13.
Wow.
And he was a grandmaster.
Wow.
At that time. But it's interesting to see that there are such different ways to develop even these days.
I just think it's fascinating, human beings' capacity to excel at things, and that you really only know when someone pushes it a little bit further, like this guy playing all these games simultaneously.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like when if everybody's doing it one way, if everybody's only playing, a few games a day and hanging out, like you'll probably all stay at the same level. But if you got one fucking psychopath in the group that's online and is playing and is reading books and that guy's gonna pass everybody, and then everybody else realizes like, oh, that's possible. I could have gotten as good as him. I better really bear down.
Yeah, because you could also see that in these guys' playing style. The guy who has been playing like constantly all the time from when he was little, he has fantastic instincts, especially with little time. He just knows where the pieces go, and like he's the only one of the kids who has that kind of feeling. The Indian guy, on the other hand, from the way he studies, he's like, during games, like he's meticulous. He calculates, like he sees every position as a problem he has to solve, more than, oh, what does my intuition tell me? Oh, I'll do this. It's like, for him, it's more, well, this is possible. Let me like try and see this all the way through. So it's just, it's just very, very different. And they call it like the tortoise and the hare sometimes, and then in certain situations the tortoise will win, and in other situations the hare will win.
Right. So so there's different types of tournaments, and there's some tournaments that have no time limit for moves.
There's always a time. There's always a time limit.
What's a traditional time limit?
What it used to be in chess was you'd have 2 hours for 40 moves, then you would have an hour for the next 20 moves, and then half an hour for the rest of the game. So a maximum of 7 hours. And that form is still being played. And then you have faster forms of chess, which is blitz chess, which is usually 5 or 3 minutes, and rapid chess, which is somewhere from 10 to 30 minutes.
Did you ever, before you were known, go to Washington Square Park and play those hustlers?
No, I actually went there in 2010, but I think some people recognized me back then as well. I think it's a bit of a myth, though, how good they are. Like,
right.
they're like okay, but they're not like
your level.
No, they're not Grandmaster level. There was one guy though. I don't remember what was. what's the name of, like, it's up by Columbia University. There's a park up there where they're playing chess as well. There I played against a guy who played like a very strange opening as white. Like he put like just a couple of pawns, one square forward, and then he started developing his pieces very slowly. So at first I thought this guy has no idea what he's doing. But then it turned out like he actually had a system. So after like 10, 15 moves, I was in a lot of trouble. And then like the game became super concrete and tactical, and I won. But it struck me that this guy like I think he just played in a park all his life, so he had developed a certain system that was actually like kind of effective if you don't know what you're doing against it. So that was kind of interesting. I'm like, he was fairly old, so I'm sure he'd played chess his whole life without ever learning any kind of opening theory or something like that. He just had, he was doing his own thing.
That's fascinating. Can you ever learn something from people that have an unorthodox approach like that?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's happened several times. There was like, my dad used to play a ton of chess at home. Like he used to have a home office, and then certain times he'd appear to be focused on his work, but I knew like a certain look in his eye which told me that he was actually playing chess. So I would go over and watch. He was like, no, go away. And then at some point where I was already a lot better than him, he played a certain opening as white, and I told him like, what is this opening like? Where did you learn this? And he said, well, you taught me the very same opening, but with the black pieces. So I thought I was going to play it as white, like with one tempo more, right? Because you're moving first. I was like, I'm one of the best players in the world, and I never thought of that. So I actually took up that line, and I used it. I used it with success against some of the best players in the world.
Wow.
So I don't know if that variation has a name. Like I've seen some other players play it afterwards as well, but I just call it the Henry Carlsen variation.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Your dad must be pretty proud of that.
He is very proud. It's funny though that my dad and my sisters, two of my sisters, they played a bit of competitive chess as well. I think at some point in time, like they wanted to learn a couple of openings, so I taught them a couple of openings, and I think all of them just never played anything else basically. So they certainly didn't have the same kind of passion to study, but I'm glad I was able to push them into some decent lines at the very least.
How do you decide what opening to choose? And do you ever decide an opening and go, fuck, I shouldn't have done that one?
Yeah, it's sometimes. Honestly, sometimes I don't know what to do, so I just randomize, because I think at a certain time, like, you might think that against this opponent you should play a little bit of more of an aggressive opening, but then maybe I feel good about my tournament standings. I don't want to mess that up, so it's easy to go for a safer approach when like the optimal approach would be a bit more aggressive. And then like if you randomize it, then you will occasionally go for the more aggressive approach. So that's what I sometimes do. It's just I randomize it, and then I just sort of accept the outcome, and it makes me more unpredictable. It makes me harder to prepare against as well. So that's what I sometimes do. It's not going to be out there, but it's going to be between like 2 or 3 options that I think are roughly equivalent. They're just stylistically different.
So when you say randomize, like how many openings do you have that you pursue on a regular basis?
Oh, that's hard to say. Probably with white, I have like 5 or 6 options that I can go to, but only like 2 or 3 that I feel really good about. And I think similarly with black.
So, and then when you randomize, you just go in your head and one of them stands out for you and you say, okay, this is it.
No, I just like have an app on my phone. And
Oh,
I
really?
just
Oh, it's a
roll
real
the dice. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Wow.
And I think, honestly, a lot of people could benefit from that because you agonize over these minute decisions. Like you spend a lot of mental energy before a certain game agonizing over what opening you're going to play. And if you know that you're going to make a decent choice, but you leave all the agonizing to like there's nothing because it's left to chance, it makes it a lot easier.
That makes sense. Wow. Now, you were saying mental energy. You were talking about the spicy Chinese food incident, but do you normally have a method of like when you eat, vitamins you take? Is there certain things that you do to optimize your clarity?
Yeah, like if I'm playing an early afternoon game, for instance, like starting at 1, I try to eat like one big meal before that, which is generally like a big omelet with some kind of salad and.
But you eat pretty clean before a big.
Yeah, I usually do. Sometimes, like after games, like I will eat something, like even some desserts and so on. But before the games, I try and keep it fairly clean. And I actually learned that when I was little. Like sometimes, like my parents, they were generally quite strict about sweets and so on. But sometimes I would eat sweets during tournament. Then my blood sugar would drop like crazy, and I would start making mistakes. And so that's something that I learned quite quickly that I shouldn't do.
Do you ever mess around with vitamins or nootropics or anything like that? Things, nutrients that help memory?
No, I think I think it's a little bit about the way that I was raised. Like I never take medicine unless I kind of have to. I don't really take supplements or anything like that. So I probably should. Like it's not a bad idea. Like my wife is half American. Like she's completely different. Like she takes 5 kinds of vitamins every single day. She's very meticulous about it, but. Yeah, I don't know. I've never...
Just get her to make you up some little packets.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it'd probably have an impact on you. I mean, it's extraordinary if you think about how good you are without it. Like any little thing that could give you a very slight edge. And I think that vitamins for sure give you a slight edge, particularly in nootropics. There's a bunch of different vitamins that have been shown through clinical trials to improve cognitive performance. Theanine, there's acetylcholine, a bunch of different things that enhance memory that are essentially just nutrients.
What's the new thing that people are doing, like carotene or something like that?
Ketamine?
No, not ketamine. But, no, it's not ketamine. Creatine?
Creatine, yes. Creatine was a bodybuilding supplement that was almost akin to steroids in the 1990s. People would think it was cheating, and then they realized, well, it's just a component of food. But one of the things that creatine does that's very extraordinary is it aids in performance when you're sleep deprived. So if you ever find yourself sleep deprived and you have to do something where you have to use your mind, creatine is a fantastic supplement for that.
Well, I mean, I woke up today and like I think my watch said it was that my sleep was like I got 15. Like I slept for 5 hours, but I got 15 minutes of REM sleep. Like it was really, really bad. So that's what I could have. Yeah. I could have used that because I was playing a chess tournament earlier today. So I could have used that, but.
Yeah, creatine is something that everybody should take. Men, women, children, everybody should take creatine. It's a really good supplement, super safe. And it aids in strength and muscle recovery and stuff like that, but it also has a lot of cognitive benefits. Just generally, just like a very good, safe supplement to take. What does it say here, Jane? Cognitive function. Studies suggest that creatine supplementation may improve cognitive function, including memory, attention, and reasoning. It may increase brain energy levels by boosting adenosine triphosphate production, ATP, which is essential for brain function. Creatine has antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties that may protect brain cells from damage caused by oxidative stress and neurotoxins. May help reduce. So it does a lot of different things. If you Google it, there's a ton of different benefits. I take it in gummy form. I take creatine gummies every day. They're delicious. It's easy. I just pop a bunch of
5 milligrams.
I don't know. We have any of those Tri-Creates here?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think I have them out there. But they're great. You know, it's easy. I put a bag in my car, take them all the time. I've noticed a difference. I just think with a guy like you, well, your brain is everything. Yeah. But you're kicking ass, so like, why listen to me?
No, but
eat cheeseburgers and fuck around and see what happens.
No, but it is the thing though. On certain days, I sort of just accept that, you know, my brain is not going to work as good, and it's frustrating, especially if you got a big game and you know that you're starting down 2-0 because your brain is not working the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I feel that with podcasting all the time, and the real danger is if I do that, if my brain's not on full tilt and I'm talking to a scientist, and I'm like, oh, like we have to talk about quantum physics, like this, I have to like have good questions. You have to be able to follow what you're saying because it's so esoteric. You know, it's weird that the brain just doesn't always work exactly how you want it to.
And honestly, chess is one of the worst things to do sleep deprived because I think creativity usually is enhanced when you're not feeling well, when you're sleep deprived, but that's generally not what you need in chess. Like, you need to minimize mistakes, you need precision. And all of my intuition, all of that is just so much worse when I'm not feeling on top of my game. So,
do you have a specific thing you do when you're feeling not on top of your game? Do you like double check things in your mind? Do you have a process you follow?
I just try to play like a simpler game where it's not as complicated, really.
And when you're feeling good, then you go for it.
No, honestly, when I feel like good, I don't think about these things. It's just a state of flow where I know how much risk to take. Like I just
So what is the mindset? Like if you're in a world championship game and it's down to these, like what is the state of mind like when you're in the middle of it?
Honestly, when I'm at my best, I'm just like pure laser focused, and I'm just calm and not thinking about anything other than
just in the moment.
Just in the moment, yeah.
Just in the work is already done. You already know the game, so now it's just reacting and moving and calculating.
Yeah, I mean, I had a game in last Classical World Championship I played in 2021 where the first 5 games were drawn. Honestly, like, I could have probably been down at that point as well. 6th game was a super, super long game, almost 8 hours. And I think for the last hour and a half, 2 hours, I was pretty short on time. But I remember, like, I was just so focused and so calm. And afterwards, I was just like, yeah, I could have kept going forever. Like, I was just there. And it was exactly what I needed. I ended up grinding out a win, and in those classical games, like once you get a lead, like that is so big because it's so hard to actually win games at that level with that level of preparation. So that was really big. But yeah, I've only had, I feel like, a few days where I feel like I'm just like completely in the moment. Usually it's a bit more messy than that, but like when it happens, it's just, the best feeling.
That's amazing that it's only been a few days where you've been fully in the moment.
I'm rarely happy after I play. I'm happier now. Like, I'm honestly, like, my standards for myself like are a little bit lower, have gone down a little bit the older I've gotten. Because I sort of accept that I don't have, my brain is not as fast as it used to be. So I'm going to have occasional letdowns. So my top level is, like, I think as good as it's ever been, or at least very, very close to. But like the average level is just too hard when your brain is not that fast anymore. But yeah, generally I'm always thinking, well, yeah, I could have always done something better. Like, you always miss some things, but I always feel like, yeah, there are avoidable mistakes that I'm still making.
So this, as you've gotten older, this lowering expectations, is that a recognition of the fact that being hard on yourself over minute details doesn't benefit you, and that you've just had a more healthy approach?
Yeah, I think so. And it just makes everything a bit easier. Also, honestly, like the randomizing opening choices has made things easier as well. Everything just to sort of lower the pressure a bit.
Have you ever consulted a mental coach or someone who works with people on mindsets to try to capture what is happening when you are in that complete total flow state of laser focusedness, and try to recreate that? Because there's a bunch of different mind coaches that will tell you for a bunch of different pursuits that what you have to do is, when you get to that state, whatever that state is, recognize that you're there, and then try to get a map of the territory and try to will yourself back into that thing. But then there's another school of thought that says, no, it just has to happen organically, and that you just need to be obsessed and focused and take care of yourself and meditate, and just when it comes, it's going to come. But you have to accept that it's a gift, and it's just not always going to be there.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the latter camp. I've talked to people who have suggested mental coaches like plenty of times, both in the past and more recently as well. I've just like always been worried that somebody's gonna mess something up in my head.
Paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, that's really what it is for me. So I feel at some point I'm just like more or less content with the way things are, that most days that I'm playing, I'm going to be fairly good. On some days I'm going to be at my very best. At other days I'm going to be very far from my best, and it's sort of the way it is. I'm definitely much more open to doing things to prevent me from having those very worst days, because those are the ones that really hurt you, especially now that we're playing a lot of faster tournaments where there are knockouts, where basically like if you have one bad day, you're out and it doesn't matter. Like back in the days with classical tournaments, like you could have a really bad day, but then you can always bounce back. But nowadays it's not that easy.
Do you ever try to map out what are the factors that lead you to hit that state, that flow state? Do you ever try to think about your day, like what did I do, what did I eat, how did I sleep, did I avoid toxic people around me, did I stay offline, like what did I do that allowed me to get to that spot?
Yeah, I mean, doing everything sort of right before the game definitely helps. Like getting good sleep, like reading a book instead of being on some sort of device before I go to sleep. Then just focusing as little as possible on chess before the game. Definitely.
Really, little as possible.
Yeah,
because you want it to be fresh in your mind. You want it to be in something exciting.
Yeah, I just want to have like 2 or 3 ideas of what I'm going to play, and not like I just don't want to like use mental energy that I could have used on the game before.
Right.
So I think one of my better tournaments that I played, I used to play every year at this seaside resort in the Netherlands, and it's in the middle of winter, so it's not very resort-like. It's just rainy and windy, and there's basically nothing there except this big tournament that's been there for 80 years, and it's for 3 weeks every January. So for me, there's not a lot to do. So what I would do like every day is I'd wake up, I'd go for a walk, And then I would watch like 30 to 45 minutes of NBA highlights from the day before. Look at chess for 15 minutes, whatever my coach has sent me of preparation that we discussed the day before. Eat and then go play. And that worked really, really well. It's just keeping it as simple as possible, honestly.
So get inspired a little bit of energy from watching NBA highlights, right?
Yeah.
Just a tiny amount of information from the coach, just like get your brain locked in, but not too much energy. Don't focus too much on it.
Yeah, a lot of people, like, they will spend 3-4 hours preparing on a game on that very day. And it can be beneficial, like if your opponent goes into specifically the lines that you prepared and so on. But overall, I think, having a fresh mind is so important. And I'm also like, even if I haven't had the perfect preparation, like I'm really good at just blocking everything out, forgetting everything that's happened, and just focusing there and then. But it's still not as good, of course, as just being in a good state of mind.
Do you ever get to the point where you feel burnout, where you want to just take days off, a week off, and not think about chess, not touch a chessboard? Or is it just constantly playing in the background no matter what you do?
But I really love it, so
Why take time off?
Yeah, why take? No. I'm fine with taking breaks from tournaments and so on, but having like at least several days in a row without like looking at a chess game, or I mean I don't have to play every day, but not having a not looking at anything, like not reading some chess stuff, or like I mean it's my favorite hobby, so I don't. I don't see why I would want to do that.
Yeah, well, that's probably why you're one of the best of all time, if not the best. I mean, that's a beautiful approach, right? If you can find a thing that you love so much that even though you do it all the time and you've done it since you were a child, you're still obsessing and loving it.
Yeah, I do have those moments where I just take a breath and think about how lucky that I am, and there are just moments where I just sort of, I wouldn't say rediscover my love for the game, but where I just think like I'm obsessed with this game and I'm completely fine with that.
Well, that's a beautiful way to live your life. If people can find a thing like that in their life, that really is the key to an enjoyable life. If the thing that you do all the time you're obsessed with. Now, we talk about it all the time at our comedy club where we're all in the green room. We're like, we are so lucky that this is actually what we do for a job. And pretty much everybody who's good at it is obsessed with it, and they think about it all the time. It's kind of the only way. But I'd need time off sometimes, because I think that's different, because it's always different ideas and different things you're working on. Sometimes you need time just to refresh your perspective. But with a game like chess, I guess you don't really need time off.
No, I think it's different for different people, but I don't know. I don't feel like it takes away energy. It just gives me joy and energy when I do that. Like I will just on a certain day I will just log into chess.com and observe random people play, and that is something I can do and be very happy about it. It's just the way I am.
Well, you're just very fortunate. You found a thing that you really locked into. It's that perspective is very important for people to recognize, like the perspective of gratitude and of appreciation that you're so fortunate to have found something. People go their whole lives and never find a thing that they're truly, absolutely passionate about. And for a guy like you, I mean, it's a shining example for people, I think. I think that's one of the things that I enjoy the most about super high performers is that they provide an insane amount of inspiration to other people. When someone sees you play chess at the highest level, or sees Michael Jordan play basketball or whatever it is, you get this feeling of what human beings can do, and it elevates your own expectations of yourself and of people around you.
Yeah, I think I've thought about it many times. Like, what am I actually like doing with my life that's useful to other people? And it always comes back to that every time that I hear that people are inspired by what I do. Maybe it helped them through like a difficult time to watch my games and to get into rediscover or find the love for the game. That's really nice. And again, in the process, I'm just doing what I love, right? And that's really what people wanna see from me. It's just competing and doing well at chess. So that's also what I'm giving as often as possible. Yeah.
Well, that's what people want out of life, is something that they love, that they do, that they're very good at, and they get recognized for it. And when a person like you does it and does it publicly, and it's inspiring, it's a great gift for other people. I mean, it truly is. Who has been are there particular players that you really enjoy watching play, and particular styles that you enjoy?
I think my favorite probably player of all time is sort of the young Kasparov before he became world champion. The thing is, like, what I find fascinating about that is that he played with a style that was so unique and so dynamic that I know that I could never replicate it. It's just not the way that I play. So that's something I admire a lot. Usually whatever I'm into, like, be it soccer or golf or basketball or whatever, like, I admire like what people do, not necessarily like it's about the people themselves. So that's the way it has been for me in chess as well. That I try to like learn from people's games and what they do, and when I talk to them, and I've been very fortunate about that, being able to study with Gary back in the day, and Anand, who was the world champion before me, because it's only then when you study, like, you talk to them, like, you understand like how good they really are and how much they understand. For instance, with Anand, I had a training session in 2008 where we had both played a tournament where I'd done reasonably well, and he had sort of, towards the end, he had mailed it in, but he was preparing for the Classical World Championship. So I think I had 2 days off, and he was living outside Madrid. And so I went to Madrid for a couple of days because the other tournament was in the north of Spain. Then I went to his house, and as soon as like that training camp started, it's like something just switched with him, and he was just so focused. We played a bunch of training games, and from being this guy who seemed completely disinterested in this other tournament, all of a sudden, like, he was crushing me. Like, he had a massive plus score in our games, and it felt like everything we analyzed, he just had a much deeper understanding of the game. It seemed that he was faster tactically and everything, and it made me like appreciate like how good he actually was. Yeah.
When you are playing someone like that and you're getting your ass kicked, does this inspire you and enact change in your game, or does it not change your game? You just do the same game but more focused?
Yeah, I think it's more of the latter. It was just a reality check for me, because I thought at that point that I was ranked, I think, third in the world. I had very briefly been ranked number one already at that point, like for a week, and I thought before that I was maybe one of the best 2-3 players in the world, and it made me realize that I wasn't, and that maybe I was able to have better results than my actual level because of youth, energy, and optimism, right? And that made me it just made me realize that I have a lot to learn, and that I should be patient and not expect everything to sort of come that fast, because at that point I'd had a year of more or less constant rise. I was it's just winning tournaments. Every time I would lose a game, I would just believe that I could strike back immediately, and I realized now that I was delusional. I thought I was a lot better than what I was, and that was probably why I was having such good results.
Because you're so confident.
Because I was so confident. But having a little bit of a reality check, I think, helped me later to actually understand the game a bit better. But I've still taken away that I think in chess, like, the optimal state when you're playing a game is somewhere between optimistic and delusionally optimistic. Because if you're realistic, you're just never going to be opportunistic enough to sort of exploit your opponent's mistakes.
I think another factor is the way you analyze things, that you were able to say, I was a little delusional, and even though I'm doing very well, I got to trust in this process of growth and development, and that it is a very, very long process.
Yeah, exactly. And like very soon after that, I started working with Garry Kasparov as well, and that made me realize that I know even less. And
what can a guy like Garry Kasparov tell you that makes you know that you know even less?
Back then, it was really like my style has become a bit more dynamic over time, but back then I really, really lacked understanding of more dynamic positions in chess. Like you can have like more static or more dynamic pawn structures. Like if there are a lot of possible pawn breaks for both sides and both kings are under attack, then it's sort of more dynamic and tactical, or it could be more about gaining some minute positional advantages, and that's sort of what I was excelling at, the latter. And working with him, it just improved sort of the more dynamic part of my game a lot, and that helped me very much short term, and also it's helped me later because it improved my understanding of the game. My main strength is still more in the more static structures, but that work like made me so much more versatile, and I still definitely profit from that.
What is a coach for you today? Like what benefit is a coach today?
A couple of things. The main benefit that I have from my chess coach is opening work. That's like the low hanging fruit. That's really what you can get the most out of from game to game. A couple of other things, like my coach is also an old friend of mine. He's Danish, so we can communicate in the same language. And he's also just as obsessed with golf as I am. So that every time like we have like a chess training camp, there's also a lot of golf being played. So those are a few things, but chess-wise, it's mainly about the opening work. Really.
And so it's essentially, he's obviously very good at chess as well, but it's essentially bouncing things off of each other and going over positions.
Yeah, and then he's very good at using chess engines to, to get slightly different results than maybe others do. Do
you occasionally, or do you at all, analyze other people's games and break them down together?
Not really. When it comes to analyzing other games, like it's more useful for me to look at what the engine is saying. So, like now,
because the engines are just smarter than people.
Yeah, that they are, and I'm good enough that I can interpret what the engine is saying to like understand why a certain thing happened. happens. So it's still interesting to analyze together as humans, but we always want to double check what we're saying with the engines.
Isn't it fascinating that that's a gigantic factor now ever since Deep Blue, right?
Yeah. So the thing about I know, like, I don't know if you talk to Gary, but he has this whole thing with Deep Blue. I'm not sure if Deep Blue was actually better than Gary, but it started the downfall of us humans when it comes to chess, and it's now been a long time where we just accepted that our computer overlords are just a lot better, and there are serious benefits for improving players, for kids. Like, the engines help people improve a lot faster, so that's a great thing. Additionally, people watching chess games, like, one problem is that you cannot easily tell, like, it's not like one guy is being punched and the other guy is punching. Like, it takes some skill to see what's going on. But with the help of the engines, like, you could actually have a real-time score all the time, because it tells you who is winning and who is not. So it becomes a lot easier to follow as well. Because honestly, like, most people, when they can consume sports, they're mostly interested about who is going to win and who is going to lose. So now at least you can have that factor in chess, that you can see that. And it's very interesting for me to read what people were writing about computer chess 30, not 30, but like 50, 60 years ago and so on, when there was an actual discussion whether computers could ever beat a grandmaster at chess. And now it's very much settled, of course.
Well, they have that same discussion about Go, right?
Well, Go is much more complicated than chess. So, but I don't know what has happened since AlphaGo. If like the best masters are still a little bit better, or where the state is at.
I think Go is better than everybody now. The computer is, but I think a new factor is that the computer has devised creative moves that were never used before, that have now been implemented. They're part of like general strategy, which I think they thought was very shocking.
So,
see if you can find anything.
Is it like
about
kind of
that.
Bluffing moves, or
I do not know, because I don't understand Go. I was just reading an article about the extraordinary leaps that AI has taken, and that one of the more shocking things was that it was able to beat the best players at Go, which they thought it was like a long time coming.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the movie AlphaGo, and I mean,
How long ago was that?
That's like maybe like 6-7 years ago.
See, in AI time, that's like Stone Ages, which is so crazy.
And I think like a year or two later, there was AlphaZero in chess. So chess engines, they were always like kind of built by humans and instructed by humans. And then AlphaZero came along, and which is a neural network that just learned chess on its own, and it became more or less as good, or maybe slightly worse than the best traditional chess engines. What's interesting is that the neural networks played chess a lot more like humans. They were much less concerned about material factors. They were more about like positional play and long-term thinking and so on, because it was not based on brute force in the way that that traditional engines would. And you would see funny, like, they have computer tournaments as well with the best engine in the world, and you will still see like Leela Zero, that's sort of the clone of AlphaZero, because they discontinued the AlphaZero project after a while. It will make like elementary tactical blunders. Really? Almost.
That's crazy.
Because I don't know, it doesn't have, it just thinks about chess differently than traditional engines, but it will also like do things that just confounds the very best chess engines in the world still. So That's very interesting to see, and like all the best coaches and players now when you work with chess computers, like you always have both like a neural net and a traditional chess engine running, as well as some others who are now like hybrid, who have a little bit of both.
It's just fascinating that it would make blunders.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's something about its search. I really don't know. But it would also make some fascinating decisions, like when you promote a pawn, like you usually promote to a queen, because that's almost always the best, unless you sometimes want to promote a knight specifically to give a check, or sometimes to avoid stalemate. But that's less frequent. But then what Lila and AlphaZero would sometimes do is that they would promote to a different piece, because if it's a piece that's anyway going to be captured, just to give your opponent like a slight chance of making a mistake by making another move, which is something like a human would never ever do. But it's really funny. A little bit of a parallel to what's going on in Go, I think, with this gamesmanship that is going on with the new neural nets. So
that's crazy that it would just trick you.
Yeah, it would try and trick you. Like, it probably wouldn't trick a human, because a human would be like, that's weird. Okay, I'll just take it, whatever. But another engine would, oh, okay. Well, I have another alternative that seems equivalent, more or less. Maybe I'll go for that. Wow. It's very strange.
So what are the best programs that people play on?
There are a few. There's one that was originally developed by Norwegian called Stockfish, that's still considered the best. So I think the best now is Stockfish, like Stockfish Hybrid. That's part neural and part traditional engine. And then I think.
Do you have to be connected online to use that?
Yeah, I mean, most people use remote engines, like some kind of cloud service, to have as much computing power as possible.
So the kind of computing power that's on your phone, like, can you beat your phone at the highest level?
No, no chance.
Is that crazy? That's so
no
crazy.
Chance.
That's
no chance.
so crazy, because Deep Blue, wasn't it like as big as a room?
Yeah.
Deep Blue was like a stack of computers, right?
But I'm sure it's still less powerful than the computer on your phone is today, right?
I know, it's just shocking.
No, I have no chance against my phone. There was
That's so crazy.
there was actually one time where I played corporate simul, and there was this guy who said, I built a chess program in my university class. Can I let that play against you again instead of myself? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I actually beat it fairly handily, because I played some kind of anti-computer chess where I just close up the position as much as possible and just let it have as few possibilities as possible to outcalculate me, so that it's a purely strategical game. That doesn't work against very good engines, but it can work against weaker ones. But no, humans, we don't have any. There was a Grandmaster who played a match recently against Leela, which is the best neural network engine now. They were playing classical chess, and he started with a knight more. And they played a 10 game match, and he won 5.5 to 4.5.
Wow.
Which is crazy. It's a knight more. It should not be possible for any. If God was playing chess, that shouldn't be. You shouldn't be able to beat a Grandmaster in any game like that. So the Grandmaster was still able to win. But yeah, for me, I rarely play against engines at all, because they just make me feel so stupid and useless. So I think about it more as a tool, more than anything else. And often, when you play against them, the moves that they make, they are not necessarily relevant as to what a human would do in that
Why?
in that situation, because we just think differently.
Do you ever try to think like the computer?
Yeah, well, specifically the neural nets have improved our understanding of the game immensely. And the AlphaZero paper came out very late 2018. And actually, I played a World Championship match late 2018 as well against an American, Fabiano Caruana. That was the best match I think that I've ever played. We played 12 draws, actually, and then I won in a tiebreak. But like the games were super high quality, and he was very evenly matched. And then he was actually using Leela, the AlphaZero clone, which we didn't have access to. Like, we didn't even know that was the thing. But the thing is, like, after AlphaZero came out in late 2018, there was a period, half a year maybe, early 2019, where you could very clearly see which players have been using these neural networks or knew how to use them, and which players didn't. And my coach, he got into it very quickly, and we got an advantage of basically everybody but that guy who had been using it during the match. And it just made us understand the game a lot better. There were, as I said, like a couple of things about long-term king safety. Pushing pawns on the side of the board was maybe the biggest takeaway, that often you would push pawns and not as an attacking tool, which used to be the way that you would push a pawn like trying to break open your king. What you would do is that you would have a little hook on the side of the board that you could use 20 or 30 moves later to make your king, like to make the opponent's king less safe then. And this is something that humans didn't really do, and I still see some people like allowing these pawn advances, and I don't like. I wonder if they didn't learn their lesson from 2019. But it was very clear to see at a certain time before everybody sort of caught up with the new information, and that's also when I had maybe my best stretch of chess ever, because I just understood these new things better than others.
It's almost counterintuitive that you wouldn't want to play the computer because the computer makes you look stupid. Because the idea in my mind would be like, well, you should play the best thing that you could possibly play. And if that's a computer, great. If that's another human being, then play the human being. But I would imagine that playing something that makes you feel stupid would, at the very least, teach you something about the game.
Yeah, it does, but at the same time, like, you know that these are usually things that humans cannot replicate. And to be fair, like, the kids these days, a lot of them play like a more concrete brand of chess that is more similar to engines than we have seen in the past,
because they've had so much exposure to it.
Yeah. Like they're less dogmatic, more concrete in their thinking. But then I know that there are usually other things that are lacking. So I could sort of steer the game there as well. So I don't know. I haven't found it particularly useful. But maybe I'm just I don't want to.
Is it partly because you just don't want to lose?
Yeah, of course. It is also because, as you said, like, chess is a very lonely game. Like, when you lose, it's because you're worse than your opponent. And imagine losing to somebody who you know is, like, completely stupid, which like traditional chess computers are. They're stupid. They just have much more computing power than you do. So losing over and over again to something that's so stupid, like, that's not a good feeling.
Could you help explain to me what are the factors? Like, what is it doing that you can't do in terms of calculating positions and moves and strategies?
Well, first of all, it's infinitely faster. So there will be certain possibilities that I will rule out because of my intuition. but it is able to calculate in a very short time that it's possible. It will never make blunders like simple tactical mistakes. The neural networks sometimes do, but traditional engines don't. And like I can keep, like, most of the moves that I make will be the same as they do, but they don't make any real blunders at all. Like, they may make slight positional mistakes, but honestly, most of the time that I think an engine makes a positional mistake is because I don't understand it well enough.
So it's not really a mistake.
No.
And it might look like one, but it's long term.
Yeah, it's just that my understanding is not good enough, and that is useful. Then that does help me learn.
What are the what is the difference between the approach that the neural network takes versus a traditional engine? Like, why is one of them approaching the game differently?
Because one of them is constantly calculating, based on sort of what humans have taught them is. Like the value of, what is the value of a pawn? What's the value of a knight? And what is the value of, a far advanced pawn and all of this? Like, it calculates based on that. A neural network, you just show it the rules of chess and, play against yourself a lot of times and get better. And it just has a different approach. Like, what it does is just based on the games that it's played against itself, right? So it will have completely different ideas at times. Like, imagine, like, in 2019, because of these neural networks, like, every opening that have been played for hundreds of years had to be rechecked by coaches, because there could be a difference in evaluation because there is this new neural network that just thinks in a completely different way.
Wow. So these neural networks could go back and look at, a classic game from like 1963 and say, well, you know what? I would have fucked that dude up because I would have done this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it just... I think a lot of it was based on it just emphasizes different factors than traditional engines do, and that ultimately just leads to different results, really. But it's it was extremely fascinating for a while, but now it's just led to really more parity in the world of chess, because everybody just has access to that information. It used to be a thing back in the time that some people would really be ahead of others, not only in 2019 but also other times. Like, they had more computing power, better cloud engines. Like, they had started to use different engines and so on. But now you could prepare for a world championship, honestly, in 2 weeks, and you'd be completely with like just a regular like laptop that's connected to a cloud. Like, it's very different and so much easier today.
That is so fascinating that it's changed the game so much. Could you get a computer, whether it is a traditional engine or whether it's a neural network, could you get one to imitate a specific style? Like, could you get one to say, I want you to play like Garry Kasparov when he was younger?
So we actually did this back in the day. We actually started an app called Play Magnus, where you could play against myself at different ages. And the style, it was based on the guy who built Stockfish built this engine as well. So it was based like an old version of that, but it would have my openings and try to emulate my style at certain ages. Obviously, it wasn't perfect, but it was a start. I think it's still difficult to build like a very good clone because essentially, at least with traditional engines, it's not possible. Maybe with AI, you can get there, but I still think we fundamentally think differently about chess. But yeah, maybe.
Well, the interesting thing would be to take you, because there's so many games that can be observed and put into the calculations, and then I would really be fascinated to watch you play you. You know, I mean, like, what would that be like? Like, you play you when you were 20.
No, so the thing about it is that you would also what you would have to calibrate is that it would make occasional like tactical blunders, right?
Right.
And which engines,
those in?
yeah,
Right. They wouldn't want to.
And so what we would do, what would happen in the Play Magnus app is that it would make occasional blunders, but those would be like a little bit too outrageous because it's like really hard to emulate the kinds of mistakes a human would make by the engines. So I think that would probably still be like the most difficult part, like the main issue in order to make such a thing.
If the Play Magnus thing was dialed in like 100%, what would be, do you think now would be the scariest age to play you? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. Are you better now than ever before?
No, I think my peak level is close to the best, because chess level or proficiency at anything, it's about making use of the knowledge and making it into skill, right? And I definitely have more knowledge now than I've ever had. But I think probably the best combination I had of knowledge and energy, and that translated the best into skill, was probably in 2019, like first half of the year when I was 28, and when I was more like a young Kasparov than I'd ever been before. Very dynamic.
Well, what is the difference between you in 2019 and you today?
A few things. First, I couldn't play the same openings as I played then, because they have been worked out to a point where they're basically, they're just too analyzed and unplayable. So that's one thing. Apart from that, I think I could do, like, my average level would probably be a little bit lower because I'm a little bit older and my brain is not quite as fast. But I could do, I think, most of those things. What I don't think I could do is like the other sort of best version of me, which was 2013, 2014, when I was in the best shape of my life, and I was just a relentless beast at the board, grinding down my opponents in very long end games, never giving them any respite whatsoever. Like purely skill wise, that was far from the best version. Knowledge wise, that was far from the best version of me. But I was just, it was just like the average level of my game definitely was higher than, because I rarely played really bad games at all, because I was always sort of on. I had so much willpower and energy.
Well, you're saying you were in the best shape of your life. Do you mean physically, or do you mean chess? Physically.
Physically, yeah.
Well, there's two factors you're talking about, like physical, like fitness, and nutrition and exercise. Like that these things you don't really take too much into consideration, but they obviously played a huge factor in the most successful period of your life.
It did, but then
because you're only 34, it's not like you're an old man.
No, that's true, but I just feel it with these kids, like their brains are just so much faster than mine. I mean, I've felt it for years as well, that No, I'm not old, but I can never be at that level of pure like computing power. But
Is that generally accepted with chess that there's a certain age where it just drops off? Like who has won the world championships at like the oldest age?
no, well, back in the days when you couldn't get information that quickly, it took people a lot longer to develop, and then it was considered that the best age was like late 30s, early 40s. Obviously, the drop off is not nearly as steep as it would be in physical sports. Like that goes without saying. But I think the peak years are pretty much the same for most people, like mid 20s to early 30s. I think I could still, I could still be very, very close to my peak if I focused fully on all the things that I can
Physical fitness,
control,
nutrition, vitamins.
all of those things. Yeah.
And yet you don't do that? I don't understand. If you're so obsessed with chess, and that seems to have a primary factor.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I feel like I generally like do the right things when I'm at tournaments, but then in between, I don't know, I want to enjoy life as well. And like I'm generally obsessed with chess, but I'm not always obsessed with competing. Like certain times, there will be certain days, certain tournaments where I know that I'm not going to be at my best, and I can feel it, and then I'm not able to take it as seriously. Like I feel like I cannot. I'm not a Michael Jordan type who has to like go all out in every game. I used to, but now I don't think I have that in me, because my main motivation for playing chess is that I love to play. I don't have concrete goals of what I want to do. Things I want to achieve. Like,
does that sort of relaxed attitude that you have, does that drive other people crazy that you're still able to beat them? I think that would drive me fucking nuts if I was just fully obsessed and studying moves all day and just taking my vitamins and drinking only purified water. And
it's kind of a thing that you're known for, right? Like a lot of other people are known to work all the time, and you've kind of always, at least a reputation, played the player, right? Isn't that what you're...
Yeah, and also the thing is, like, I was known for like being fit and all of these things, but now I think there are a lot of other players who take these things a lot more seriously than I do. I think the reason why I got that reputation is that I really like doing a lot of like I did a lot of sports when I was little, and I've always like kind of done them for fun. So I think that was why, like, you don't see a lot of chess players playing soccer or tennis or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm great at any of those things, but I was usually better than a lot of other chess players. I guess I do have. I don't know what reputation I have with the others. Like, I don't really care.
Yeah, it's not much you could do about your reputation.
I'm just saying, like in a game or a sport where it's so computer involved and analyzed, and there's geniuses wearing suits and glasses and things, you're kind of known as a laid back, intimidating force with a legacy. Do you have, are there special things you do, kind of like more like a poker player or anything, to intimidate your opponents ever? Like, I've seen you like show up late to big tournaments where they're like waiting for you and stuff. That's really cool.
That's a Miyamoto Musashi move.
No,
Samurai? Yeah.
Honestly, like, that's me being late is down to a couple of things. First, I hate waiting, but also, I'm terrible at planning. So that's why I keep showing up late.
You're terrible at planning. You know how funny that is? It's literally what you do. Better than anybody.
like my planning is always based on everything going perfectly, and like making a time plan based on that. And if something goes a little bit wrong, then I'm going to be late. And like something usually goes wrong, or often enough that it becomes a thing. Like as you talked about in chess, like there's this video that a lot of people have talked about where there's a blitz game, right? And that's 3 minutes, and I come like 2.5 minutes late because I've been skiing in the mountains, and there was an accident on the road that delayed me like half an hour. Like most people would have planned for that, had a little bit of buffer, but I was like, that was probably going to be fine. Suddenly there's an accident and I'm going to be late, and I'm just running into the playing hall in my sweatpants and not even realizing that the game has started. I just thought I was so late that I should be, and I saw that everybody was there, and then randomly turned out that I had half a minute left when I got to the board. So that's kind of more.
How'd you play the game? Did you like have a different approach because you knew you only had 30 seconds?
No, the thing is like there you have a 2-second increment per move. So I'm not going to lose on time automatically. I just had to play a little bit faster, but it was okay. But as I said, like I don't do those things to intimidate my opponents. I'm just
that would be
bad
such a
at planning.
mind fuck. Guy shows up 2.5 minutes late and still stomps you.
Yeah, I don't think many people know about the skiing delay or anything. I think it was thought of as like I'm a badass. I'm coming in late.
No, honestly, that was like the world championships in chess, like they were being held in the weirdest places. So this was in Almaty, Kazakhstan, which is this like really during winter at least pretty polluted, not very nice city. And then just half an hour out of the city, you have basically the Alps. You have beautiful mountains that goes up to 3,500 meters, where it's just fantastic, and you can like get from the city it's like an hour and you're at the top of the mountain and having a beautiful ski vacation, and I just like was so miserable being down in the city that I thought for this day, like if I'm going to perform at all today, like I need some fresh air. I need to get out of here, and so that's why I took the risk, and it was definitely not not to play mind games, because Bobby Fischer said about chess that I don't believe in psychology, I believe in good moves. Like I believe in like a little bit of both, but I'm more in his school that I just I think I'm going to make better moves, and I don't need that all those other things.
Did you ever have an opponent that was doing something psychological that kind of messed you up or threw you off? Like back when I was a wrestler in high school, some guys wouldn't shower and it would be disgusting, right? Was there anything like that in chess?
Yeah, that specific thing has happened for sure. I'm not sure if it's been if it's been a conscious choice by my opponents. I'm sure I've been guilty of it as well. That's true. I don't know really. I think the only thing is not to bring that up again, but I think when I think that my opponent might be cheating, that's the only time that I'm really off. Yeah.
It's just weird that you can cheat and do it for so long and yet still play in the best tournaments. You would think that like in the UFC, like say if you get caught with steroids, you get a long ban. And you can't. And if you get caught again, you get an even longer ban. And I think it's like a 3-strike thing. If you get caught a third time, you're out of the sport forever.
Yeah.
No, it's the thing is that.
But you think harsher penalties would discourage people?
Oh yeah, for sure, especially for online, because there's been this thinking that cheating over the board and over online is like very different. But the thing is, like once people are cheating online, then having these meteoric rises over the board as well, it makes you think, that's a bit strange.
Yeah.
So yeah, there definitely needs to be harsher penalties. One thing that chess.com used to do is that they would let people sort of confess privately and then get their account back. but now they're moving to more naming and shaming sort of thing with and banning people for longer, which I think is it's a lot better. But a lot of it is about incentives as well, right? Like if you think that you can get away with cheating, and there are monetary incentives to cheat, people are going to cheat. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's just with every pursuit. There's always going to be people that look for shortcuts. There's always going to be someone that looks to skirt around the difficult path.
No, that's true. But the thing is, like, there's so little you need in chess, and the engines are so powerful. Like, if I started cheating, you would never know. The thing is, like, I would get like a move here and there. That's all I need. Or maybe, imagine I'm playing a tournament. I just find a system where I get somebody to signal me when there's a critical moment. Like if there's a moment where a certain move is much better than the others. That's really all I would need to go from being the best to being like practically unbeatable, right? So it really is a scary situation. There have been so many cases of people who are acting suspiciously and who are making suspicious suspicious results based on the data, but they're very, like, if you're not cheating in a dumb way, there rarely is going to be a smoking gun. Right. And without that smoking gun, it's really hard to catch people.
How would you eliminate that other than security? Would you have it so there's no audience members at all and have them only in a room together?
So that has been done in World Championships, for instance. Like we're basically been playing like in a glass box where you can see where you cannot see the audience and you cannot hear anything. So it's a glass-proof box. That's like, you kind of don't want that. You want there to be like, I really like having chess more like an esports setting where people can be as loud as they want. It's just you have players sit down like boxers with headsets. But don't headsets open up the possibility of cheating? But then, like, the headsets would be all provided by the organizers,
right? So some sort of
and you'd have to have like both. We have had that in tournaments that you have to have white noise and some kind of sound from like Spotify or whatever. If you want to listen to classical music or whatever,
you can do that.
Yeah.
So you can listen to Wu-Tang Clan while you play chess?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, playing blitz chess, listening to music usually helps me because, like, doing tasks that are more intuition-based, then that helps with the flow. With longer games, you probably don't want that disturbance. But
right.
I've definitely played some of my best blitz chess just... listening to music.
What do you
sitting
listen to?
there bopping?
Bopping.
I think
some wild Norwegian music, like Rammstein or something.
That's actually German, but they have some good songs. No, I think my best chess has probably been Norwegian rap.
Norwegian rap, really?
Yeah.
What's a good Norwegian rap band that you could, a rap group that you could recommend?
There's a guy called Mr. Pimp Lotion and Oral B.
Mr. Pimp Lotion
and Oral B. They're kind of. It's like a little bit ironic, but they're like doing like American like West Coast rap in Norwegian.
Oh, that sounds badass.
This is a bit of a different one. But I actually did a song with
Mr. Pimp Lotion.
I actually did a song with those guys.
What a great name, Mr. Pimp Lotion.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, my verse is like right at the end.
I like it too because I don't have any idea what the words are saying.
Yeah.
Yours is at the end?
No, basically there's the thing about what happened was that they did a show and they have this this thing called spanol, which is like a moisturizer mostly used for animals. But like this Mr. Pimple Lotion, like he's obsessed with that one, and somebody apparently stole that from backstage, at their concert, and so they didn't know who it was, but they eventually found out and they made a song about it. And so they had a bunch of people like send in their verses.
Incredible the difference between America and Norway, what the rappers are rapping about. There's gang wars and shootings, and in Norway somebody's like, "Who stole my lotion?"
Yeah. There actually was a popular song like about 20 years ago that referenced specifically that in Norwegian, that there was nothing to rap about because nothing bad ever happens.
That's what he's saying in
Don't
English.
make pull out the gun. It's best that someone speak out. Who stole the spanol? Who stole my lotion?
Yeah. Basically, there's a bunch of verses, like people accusing each other, and then I randomly come in at the very end and solve the mystery.
Was it you?
No, it wasn't me. I was not at that particular show, but yeah, I think I think like the best online chess that I've ever played was probably listening to their music.
Wow.
Do you mix it up? Do you ever listen to like Led Zeppelin or?
No, I listen to a lot of older stuff as well. So yeah, I'm like, I have no idea what's on the chart these days in general, but
I find out through Tony. Yeah, I find out through the young guys at the club. I'm like, what are you listening to? What is this?
yeah.
And then I'll do Shazam on it and put it on my Spotify playlist.
Like that sometimes happens to me as well. Maybe like once a year or something.
Yeah.